No, sorry, Lamed Aleph on base. Lamed Aleph, Amud Aleph, wait a minute. Lamed Beis, Amud Aleph. Beis, Amud Aleph. Beis, Amud Aleph. 63. No, we stopped at the top.
Oh, we stopped before that?
Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to learn this. I mentioned last night at the end of shiur that there's a whole different dispute here. It's amazing because Avodah Zarah really, more than any other Masechta in recent memory, is so susceptible to having multiple approaches and multiple girsos, and you really have to pick and choose whichever one suits you best. So here too, I'm going to follow more or less the Sha'ar Eretz Yisrael pretty religiously. There's a line. We're up to the second line. The second line says Nishmina Min Adah. But I'm going to bring in, as he does, a cut and paste in here the line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down. Rabbi Yirmiyah Boy. Okay, the line it's the middle of the line. Rabbi Yirmiyah Boy. You see that? 8 lines down. Rabbi Yirmiyah Boy. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked, "Scharo l'shaber chavios." If you show yain nesech, you hired somebody not to work with yain nesech, but to break barrels of yain nesech, smash barrels, right? So scharo, what? So it says. So the Gemara asks, is uschara mutter? Is he allowed? I'm sorry. If you look at schara aser, are his wages forbidden? In other words, we saw yesterday that all sorts of things that you do with yain nesech corresponding to that value yain nesech, we fine you and we deprive you of either your gain, your profit, or even your own property corresponding to the potential benefit you would have received. What about if the guy hired you just to break barrels of yain nesech?
This is the guy that hired
you? A guy hired you, yeah. He might even be a Jew for that matter, but let's say a guy for that matter. Let's make it easier.
Yeah,
okay.
If it's a Jew, then isn't there a problem with Dr. Shalom? I mean, the guy wants this yain. But in this case...
No. The owner hired you to break the barrels, right? To break barrels. So your reward is coming due to yain nesech, but it's not direct, it's backhanded, right? So let's go back now to the second line, Yishmina Min Adah. Let's start from here. Hasaras HaPoel is actually a very useful brisa, which I don't know where this is about. It says here, I'm Baba Kama, but I don't remember it from Baba Kama. Yishmina Min Adah. Hasaras HaPoel, you hire a worker. Lavi Yain L'choyle. It's very, as I said, very useful brisa. You hire a worker to bring wine for a sick person. If he brings the wine, you have to pay him. If not, you don't have to pay him. So you hire him for a job. So when do you have to pay him? When he does the job. When he doesn't do the job. However, Im Armalov, he said, it should be lahavi, or to bring wine, lachoyle, to a sick person. The fact that the guy is sick is not material to the case here. Mimakom ploini, from a certain place. So you sent him there. Okay? You added that in. Instead of saying, bring me wine for Yankel, I said, bring me wine from Milwaukee from Yankel, right? And he went to Milwaukee. He didn't bring the wine back, couldn't find it, I guess, but he went to Milwaukee, right? Or, v'tapuach, bring an apple, lachoylumi mokomplaining, ben hevi ben loe v'chayev litlo d'mei raglov, right? You have to pay him. Why? Because he invested time on your account. You gave him specific instructions concerning the mission you want him to undertake. So you're not paying him for the job, but you're paying him for the time. He was an employee for that time. Okay? It's not a contractor, it's like an employee, he's an employee. Right? You give him his traveling costs. Because here too the same thing. Lo dmei raglov no sinlo. Here, where you're paying the guy to break the barrels, you're not paying him to do things for yain nesech. You're paying him really for his time. It happens to be that it's a chiddush because you specified that he wanted to break barrels of yain nesech for you. But that's the idea. That's why you hired him for his time, and therefore he's allowed to collect those wages in this case. Okay, it's a very interesting halacha. Okay, so the bottom line is, if my working yain nesech is coincidental to the fact that it's yain nesach. I'm a paid worker by the hour, whatever it is. I can do it. If my work is integral to the yain nesach, then I can't. That's basically what it boils down to.
Well, the carrying of a barrel of the yain nesach, was that integral?
No, that isn't integral, because there it's carrying a barrel of wine. He wasn't hired for a time. He was hired to carry a barrel of wine. It's a contract. The difference is a contractor versus a paid employee. Okay? Say if you work for a goy and he assigns you for a certain amount of time, you're a paid employee of a goy. He assigns a certain amount of time a day to transport yain nesach, right? He could have assigned you to work the fields at the same time. So therefore, in that case, your wages would be mutter. Okay, it would be the same idea.
Why?
Yain nesach is forbidden to have benefit. Now, do I have any benefit from it? Any benefit whatsoever. Okay, Asi Omar. We're going back down to skipping those lines we put on top. Asi Omar, Dmei yain nesach biyad nochri. The interesting halacha. A guy himself sold yain nesach, and now he has yain nesach money, right? Or take out the word aser, because it's clearly the Gilyon Ephraim. Others take it out. There are many Berushim here again here, but I'm going to follow more Gilyon Ephraim here. The Mei yain nesach biyad nochri, and the Mei Avodah Zarah biyad nochri. And also, if a guy, same thing, a guy, he's an idol seller. So he has the Mei Avodah Zarah in his hands. Rabbi Yonasan Amar Mutar, Rabbi Yonasan says it's not your cheshbon. The interaction between Jew and Gentile is what makes it also. In other words, if you're buying and selling yain nesach from him, but if he's buying and selling yain nesach and then he gives you the money, that's okay. Chazal didn't make a decree on that. The same with Avodah Zarah money, right? Whereas Rabbi Yechon Amar Aser, Yechon says, no, if you know that it's yain nesach money, if you know that it's Avodah Zarah money, you can't take it. It's forbidden.
It's a question about laundered money.
Right, it's laundered money, okay. So it says, each opinion has a brisa which assists it. Masisa Messiah Rabbi Yochanan is a brisa which is right for Rabbi Yochanan. Nochri she'ech chayav. Can I ask you a favor? I know you look very comfortable, I'm sorry. But you can put like a chair in front of the door and get some cross ventilation because there is a breeze. Or maybe just the garbage pail is good enough. Yeah, but I'm getting a breeze from behind me, so if we open the door, I'll probably get a nice breeze. Okay. So Masizim Saiden, there's a brisa which is a riot for each one. Masizim Saiden Rabbi Yochanan, it's a brisa which is a riot for Rabbi Yochanan, Nachri She'ech Chayav Mos L'Yisrael. A goy owed money to a Jew. Lo Yomar Lo, so he can't say to him, Hamtei. Now the truth is, Lo Yomar, it's kind of inaccurate because it sounds like the Jew can't say to the goy. What I'm going to tell the goy what he can't say, he cannot say. But you get the idea. It's bad if the Jew says, Hamtein ad she'emkor yain nesach ad she'emkor avodah zarah v'etin loch. You shouldn't allow the goy to say to you. That's what it means. Wait till I sell some yain nesach and I'll pay you. Wait till I sell some avodah zarah. So it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan, right? That you're forbidden, even if the goy is selling yain nesach avodah zarah on his own, you can't derive benefit from that. Okay? So it says the Gemara. Now I'm going to switch here, like almost all the Farshim switch. I'm going to give the plug in here the line from 3 lines hence, and this line over here plug it in 3 lines from here. It should say what. So what would Rabbi Yonasan have said? Rabbi Yonasan says the Mei Avodah Zarah biyad goy is mutar. As long as he did it himself, it's okay. So here I put in the words from 3 lines. So now mipnei maris ayin. It's not really also. It's also because it looks bad. Because if you know that the guy is actually going out to sell yain nesach or avodah zarah to pay you, that's no good. That's Rabbi Yonasan would say, how he would respond to this proof. Now the flip side is the proof to Rabbi Yonasan. Masisim said Rabbi Yonasan. There's a brisa proof to Rabbi Yonasan. It says Nachash Chayav mostly Yisrael. A Jew owed money to a guy owed money to a Jew. Hareitz and moichi yain nesach v'noislo. It's okay if the Jew sells. The goy sells the yain nesach and gives him the money. Or avodah zarah, if the goy sells avodah zarah and gives it to him. So this clearly riots Rabbi Yonasan, would seem, because it seems that you're allowed to accept that which a goy exchanged for yain nesach avodah zarah money as payment to you. Says more again, having switched the lines, no, Ani Omer Shema Yichlif. Rabbi Yochanan would say, in that case, it's only because it's a suffix. If it was vada that you were getting from a goy, Yain Nesla money, Avodah Zarah money would be forbidden. But in this case, we assume it's not 100% sure. It's a good, but about case where it might have exchanged in the middle, and that's why it's okay. Okay? Now, the more shifts gears, again, I'm going to learn according to Vilna Ephraim, Hakol Moedim B'Chalif and Shasuros, if a Jew, leaving going behind, talking about Jews, if a Jew has exchanged Yain Nesla for money, and you know that, of course, for a fact, then you can't take that money from a goy. From a Jew, sorry. A Jew, by a goy was just a machlokas. But everybody agrees that by a Jew, whatever he exchanges is also. Okay? Chalifi ma, what if a Jew he exchanged and then exchanged again? In other words, he sold Yain Nesach, he was selling Yain Nesach, wine, and he got money, and then he used that money to buy, bread. Okay, and the bread is kosher bread. But the bread is now Chalifi in Yain Nesach. It's the exchange for the exchange of Yain Nesach. So can you use it or not? So Rabbi Chinuch said Machlokas Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Shmuel Rabbanan. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, it's Machlokas Rabbi Yossi and Rabbanan. Rabbi Yossi Omar, now the Mara upon him and the Vilna Ephraim and the Shai there, so both changed the names here. In the Bible, it doesn't say who says what. The Bible brings down to Machlokas and says one says one and one says the other. We don't know who says what. But the Maraponim and Shai there, so changed the names here because the Rama Paskin's Osir. So therefore, we would like that to come out like Rabbanan. And besides, it makes more sense with the Gemara which comes up afterwards. So therefore, we're going to switch it. Rabbi Yossi Amar, Rabbi Yossi Amar Mutter. Rabbi Yossi holds that which is exchanged for the exchange is permitted. For Rabbanan Amar Yossi, Rabbanan say it's Osir. Rabbi Yossi says it's Osir. Rabbi Lezer, sorry, he doesn't know. Sorry, he didn't appear. Rabbi Lezer says, "Time of the Rabbanan, the logic of the rabbis who say it's Osir, and this drush in the Bible is also affiliated with the individual who says it's the opinion which holds it's Osir. They say, "Vayisa cherem kamo." It says, "You shall be a cherem like it." Cherem means a forbidden substance, right? So koshat yochel kaimo imenu. It says anything which be hayisa, which we darshan like hayisa. Anything which gets life from the Avodah Zarah is like the Avodah Zarah, which means even chalifin, no matter how far down the line. And again, the same drush is in the Babli. Maikadun. Now, on the other hand, what's the svara to be matir? And this is somewhat different than the Babli. The Babli says, brings out the drush of u, which is a miut. In other words, only it itself is also not anything, not any exchange. Rabbi Bun has a slightly different drush here. Rabbi Bun says, kamo shtei pamim. It says kamo twice. Kamo shtei pamim. This twice comes to preclude chalifin. Chalifin is also, but chalifin is mutter. Okay? So that's what we learned. The fact says kamo twice as a mute. Okay?
Like a grandma, right? This chalifin is something.
Well, I know. That's a similar principle, but that's a pretty stretch. Just a stretch. Okay? So, okay, no, you're entitled. Says Mara, Al Shem. The last line is somewhat kind of cryptic, what exactly is going on. So I think that what it means, it says, I think what it means, I didn't see any good perush on it, that it means that nothing from the original cherem should be in your hands. So, from the original forbidden substance. So therefore, according to this madam, chalifin is mutter, because there's nothing remaining from the original forbidden substance. Chalifin, yes, but not chalifin. Okay, I don't know if that's proper pshat or not. As I said, we don't pass them like this madam, we pass them like the opinion which holds that even chalifin also. I don't know how far down the line it goes. I didn't look up the Rambam. Maraponim probably brings it down, but I didn't get far enough into what he says. But L'maisa chalifin also. Now, if a goy hires your donkey, your truck, you're a trucking firm, to transport yain nesach also, that's forbidden. Okay. Again, we would distinguish, right, between when he hired you to transport yain nesach, or he hired your truck and he happens to fill with yain nesach, and that's really the next case. It says more schara leishekba. If he hired it in order to sit there, even though the guy put his yain nesach on the donkey as well, so schara muter. In other words, if you run Hertz rent the donkey and he's going to put yain nesach in the trunk, that's not your problem. Okay, you don't have to worry about that. So there's an interesting dichotomy though here in the Gemara. Ad hechon. How far does that go? That heter, the leniency in the sefer. So there are two girsos here. First, I'll explain what most people learn. Then I'll give the other possibility. Most people learn hachamar makpid. In other words, if the load is already significant, like if it's a small load, right? So you wouldn't have charged for it. You know, it looks like a canteen. So then it's okay. But if it's already a significant load, you can't just say, well, he hired it to sit on it and he's giving yain nesach, right? He's putting yain nesach there. What do I care? No, if it's something which usually you would charge for, you can't just ignore it and say, well, it's not something I'm charging for. You know what I'm saying? In other words, if there's normally this type of load, this weight, you would charge for, so then that's forbidden. That's really yain nesach. Okay? The other girsa, which is actually the way it is here, that's where the Gilin Ephraim learns, and not Gilin Ephraim, somebody else, I forget who says that. That's the Gilin Ephraim and the Shar Teres, so they both learn that way. The Meichel Mayim learns like it says here, and he says, in other words, if the animal, which is interesting the way he learns it, if the animal could sense the weight of the canteen, then it becomes osir. Or it's something which impacts on the animal's load will make an nafkamina. Okay? So I guess, if it makes the truck go slower, that would be the same idea. In other words, the truck has to work hard to transport it, that would be the same idea. Okay? Says so what is going on the Gabra, one on the Behemoth. Hello, Yain Nesach Shnofa Gabi Anobi. If Yain Nesach fell on grapes, you rinse them off, because the grapes do not absorb it. Because if the grapes were cracked, they're also because the Yain Nesach seeps in. Now it's interesting. This is a Haskolish thing here. The Mishnah in the Bavli has a whole discussion. Has a whole additional line here. It says here Nofel in the Bavli. It says here Nofel agabi te'enim or agabi tmorim. If it falls on figs or on dates, im yesh ben benosin tam osir. If it gives a taste, it's osir. And then the Bavli, because it has its gears in the Mishnah, it has difficulty with the next story. Look at the next story here, which is also in the Bavli, of course. Ma'aseh bebitus ben zoyin is the ma'aseh bebitus ben zoyinim. Sure, maybe Grogros Besfinim was bringing dried figs. Dried figs or dried dates? Grogros, I think, are dried dates. Dried dates in a boat. And there were jugs of yain nesach. There are gabeyan on top of them in the cargo hold, and it spilled. They broke, right? And they said it's okay. Now the Bible is Bible because the mice contradicts. We just said that if it falls on dates, it's also here. It says mutter. So the Bible makes a chisuri mechsera, which is one of the tools that the Yerushalmi never uses, right? A chisuri mechsera, and it says no. It should say in the middle, and if it was nozitam of gam, it's okay. If it gives an off taste, and in dry dates it already gives an off taste. But so what's fascinating is that the Yerushalmi doesn't have the tool of chisuri mechsera, doesn't have that part in the Mishnah. So it's, it could be just by coincidence, but it could be since the Yerushalmi doesn't have tool of chisuri mechsera, they just deleted that when they added to the Mishnayos. Okay? We know, by the way, Rebbe added to the Mishnayos, but he didn't write them down. According to most sources, according to Rashi, they were written down later on. So it's possible that the Yerushalmi had a different way of writing them down than the Bavli had. Again, based on the fact that we never find the tool of chisuri mechsera on the Bavli. Okay? In the Yerushalmi. So anyway, Zerka general principle. Koshu b'anayos b'noisei tam osur. Anytime there's hana in the taste which is given, it's forbidden. Meaning, if it's nice and tam, the lishvach, it gives a good taste, it's osur, right? Sometimes the taste doesn't. When the taste doesn't divide the benefit, means it's nice and tam livgam. It gives an off taste, so then it's mutter. It's okay. Kigon, what's a classic case of that? Which is going to come up again more. Hachomet shnofel agrees in when vinegar falls into lentils. Vinegar and lentils, no good, taste bad. So therefore, even the vinegar comes in yain nesach, the lentils don't become usher. Okay? Says the Gemara Masdisa b'shalon nidal dechosaman. The Mishnah, which in the Reisha said that if wine fell on the grapes, it still remained mutter. It's only if the stem was not already out of the grape. The stem is already out of the grape. Foucault saying then it's as if the grapes are split, because obviously the wine can enter through the top of the grape, right? So the yain falls on the grape, it asers the grapes. Now, this line in the Gemara, the next line, there are about 500 perushim or I exaggerate, but there are various different ways of learning it, and very different ways of doing the girsa. It is amazing. This whole Gemara is Avodah Zarah is amazing. So anyway, mat avidla kiyain b'yain o kiyain b'tavshil. I'm going to learn this first like the Gilyon Ephraim, and then I'm going to give you a couple of other interpretations, although I think the Gilyon Ephraim is the best. That's why I'm going to do it first. Okay? Mat avidla, how do you learn this? Kiyain b'yain or kiyain b'tavshil? When wine falls on grapes, is it like wine falling out in wine, or like wine falling into a cooked dish? In Tabdine, if you're going to make it, it should be according to Gilyon Ephraim, kiyain b'yain, like wine falling on wine. Because that's no sitam. Everybody will agree it's also because no sitam b'shvach. It's a good taste. But in Tabdine kiyain b'tavshil, going to make it like wine falling into a cooked dish. So that's a machlokas Rabbi Meir and Rabbanan. Why? Because yain b'tavshil is actually going to be as a machlokas whether it gives a nice and tam l'shvach or nice and tam gam, what kind of taste wine gives to a cooked dish.
Nowadays they cook with wine.
Right. So that's a flaw in the Gilyon Ephraim. Although I think the Gilyon Ephraim is the best. Obviously nowadays people cook with wine, so that's the difficulty. But he does bring down there's a Gemara and Shavuos like that, which I guess we had. Okay, back in Perek Gimel Halacha Beis. Now, the Meicha Mayim, the Meicha Mayim doesn't like the gears in front of us either, because obviously it's shocking to say that wine in grapes is nice at Tam Mufgam. He doesn't like it at all. And even though they're Ephraim, it's shvach. Let's say yain and tavshil does give a Tam Mufgam, but wine and grapes, wine and grapes, they go naturally together, right? The zok there. That's what he says. So he says, what's the machlokas? It's not a machlokas when there's a tam shvach or there's tam gam. It's machlokas whether it's min b'mino or not min b'mino. Because if it's min b'mino, the min b'mino type bound type is not bato kon Rabbi Yehuda, but it is bato kon Rabbanan. So that's what he's saying. If you're going to say that's how he wants to go, it's machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Rabban, it's not that. Sorry, it's more complicated. There, I apologize. Sorry, a little more complicated. Because he's obviously, even though min v'mino is bought according to Rabbanan, nevertheless, yain nesach, it's not. Sorry, yain nesach, it's not bought. Yain nesach asers. But if it's so that's the question whether it's min b'mino or min b'she'eno mino. Okay, so he says the way he wants to learn the girsa is that it's machlokas Rabbanan, and it's an issue by Stam Yenom. Stam Yenom, the rabbis were not going to ask the Bakoshu by Min B'mino. Okay? So not by Yain Nesach Mamish, but by Stam Yenom. So that's what we want to learn. The wine and the grapes, if you're going to say it's if you're going to say it's like wine in Tavshil, so it should be Divrei HaKol Mutter. Everybody would agree that it's Mutter. Is that what he wants to do the girsa? I think that's how he does it. Because wine b'tavshil is min b'she'eno mino, that would be mutter. But if you're going to say it's like wine in wine, so that's machlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. Because like Rabbi Yehuda, min b'mino is not batel, and therefore this one would be batel. Like Chachamim, it's even though it's min b'mino, it still would be batel. Again, if Stam Yenom, not if it's Yain Nesach. That's the way the Meicha Mayim wants to learn it. The Shai Teretz Yisrael wants to learn that this is a change of gears to say it's Machlokas Shin Gamliel and Chachamim. And it's a different Machlokas which we have later on, the Maseh, later on, in the parak, when wine, yain nesa, falls into regular wine, can you sell the wine minus the price of the yain nesa? So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel holds you are, and Rabban holds you're not. But everybody agrees if wine falls into your top shield, you can't sell it for the price of the top shield minus the wine, because the wine obviously seeps in and pervades the entire thing. So where it's wine and wine, so then I could sell, according to Shimon Gamliel, the wine minus the price of the yain nesa. So that's he wants to learn according to the Shara. They still want to say again, why do you make like wine and wine or wine and top shield? It's like wine and top shield, so you can't sell the grapes. It's a total loss. It's going to be a whether you can sell it minus the price of the yain nesa or not. Okay? So again, my best shot though is again Ephraim's shot, which is the first shot I gave, which is that the issue is whether it's nois in tam with gam and nois in tam with shvach. If it's like yain tavshil, it's nois in tam with gam. It's like yain in yain, then it's no saying tam with shvach. And if it's like yain and tavshil, then it's going to be okay. If it's like yain and yain, it's going to be a machlokas. No, 1 second, I forgot. No. If it's like wine and wine, it's us, because there's no tam with shvach. It's like wine and tavshil, then it's machlokas or main rabbanon. Whether, even though it's no sitam v'gam, it's mutter or remains also. Okay? A cooked dish, any cooked dish, generic cooked dish. So says Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan. Now, the next Gemara is even worse. Rabbi Yochanan, that which we said, that when wine gets mixed up, but this sounds like the Gilin Ephraim. If you read, it sounds like right in Ephraim. Hold on, but now you say that wine and tavshil is nice and tam lefgam is beroischim. When you cook the wine in the dish, if it's hot, cooking wine dish bad. The truth is, it could be that the wine itself is pogum. That's why yain mevushal is okay, right? Yeah. Right. So avo b'tzayin in aser. But if you put in the wine into the dish after it's cooled down, then it's taka. That's no sitam l'shvach. Shekain b'nei derech b'nei tziporin. The people in Tziporin, they do that. They make such a dish for karnaso shchalaya. They call this cooked dish a delicacy shachlaya. Okay. Now, hayu gleischim v'tzinanon. What if it was hot when you put in the wine and then you cooled it down and you're eating it cold? What's the story? Me'ato. Afterwards. Me'ato means now afterwards you cooled them down. In that case, let's say even though they were once boiling, now they should be also because you cooled them down. Okay? So that the question is basically the question which comes from a Sugi and Orla. What's the status of pogum ubasofi shbiach? That when it fell in, the wine was pogum because it was hot. But then it can become l'shvach later on when you cool it down. What's the status in that case? And now we have to change almost the entire girsa in the next few lines, because the girsa really is like everybody Taka says. You see, even the Redbas here says the proper girsa is the girsa in the Gemara in Orlo, and the Gemara in Orlo is the girsa is very different than what it has here. And I really, I feel bad for you guys, but it's totally different. So you're just going to have to try and pay attention. It says there. Rabbi Yasser b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Shimoni. Does not all in front of you. Rabbi Yasser named Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Shimoni that if you cool it down, it's still going to be mutter according to Rabbi Shimon. The Tani we learned in the Brisa, Kol Neis Neitam. Here you have this line. You do have the Tani Kol Neis Neitam. Bein l'shvach, bein l'bkam oser. Any taste is also the very mayor. Because there ain't no such thing as nois and tam l'bkam. The Gilin Ephraim already mentioned that before. When in the Machlokas, when he said Machlokas Rameir Chalchomim, is that mayor holds there's no such thing as nois and tam l'bkam, right? It's all oser. That's what it says here in our Gemara. But in Orla it doesn't say that. It just brings it down as tam makama. Kol nois and tam bein l'shvach, bein l'bkam oser. Rabbi Shimon Omer, and this you don't have already. Rabbi Shimon Omer l'shvach oser. Well, actually, you have name Chachamim here. Rabbi Shimon Omer l'shvach oser l'fgam mutter. right? If it's for positive, it's osir. If it's negative, it's mutter. That's a case of noisin tam lefkam. Now, so until this, you really have a parallel in our Gemara, but now I'm bringing down purely the Kirsa in Orla. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Omer Shimon ben Lakish says, Ma pligin, what's the machlokes between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbanon? B'shishbiach v'achar pogam, where at first it gave a good taste and then it gave an off taste. Avo pogam v'achar ishbiach, but if it was bad at first and then it was mashbiach afterwards, after Rabbi Meir Modei, Rabbi Meir who limits the halacha and says there's no such thing as Osin Tam Lufkam, that's only if when it fell it was mashbiach and then became pogum. But if it was pogum to begin with, even Rabbi Meir agrees that it's okay. So also over here, if when it was boiling you put in the wine and then you cooled it off, according to Rabbi Shimon Lakish, everybody would agree it's batal. Rabbi Yochanan argues. With one rare case, Rabbi Yochanan is machmir. Rabbi Yochanan says, Omar, hu yishbiach hakach pogam, he pogam v'chakach yishbiach, he machlokas. No matter what they argue. It doesn't matter. As long as it's shevach at one point, whether when it falls in it's good, even if it goes bad afterwards, or whether when later on it's mashbiach, even if it falls in it's bad, they're both no good. Okay? Now, going to the next page, I'm Gimel Alpha to the top, to Tzvina Tzamon, and that which you learned over there. Barley falls into a pit of water. Afal pi, even though shivishu meimov, even though initially it was mavish. Now the afal pi is kind of out of place. Because what it means is that even though initially it was pogum and then it became good afterwards. But it's pogum l'sopish biach. It was bad at first, then became shevach afterwards. Mutter. It's okay. In other words, when barley falls into water, first it ferments and it tastes bad, right? And then afterwards it becomes better. I guess it becomes beer afterwards. So that becomes good. So now there's a Mishnah which says that that's okay. It's good. It's fine. So who's that going like? So Hada Masnisa, that Mishnah, what's its status? Rabbi Yochanan, here it should say instead of Rabbi Meir, or Meir, it should be Rabbi Yochanan Mer b'machlokas. It would say that's such a machlokas, because that's the case of Pogam b'asofish biach, where first it was bad and then it became good. The halachas Pogam b'asofish biach is, according to Rabbi Meir, an issue of machlokas or main Rabbanan. Whereas next here it says Rabbi Yochanan, but really should say should take a Rabbi Yochanan and say rather just Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish holds divrei hakol. Everybody would agree. Why? Because Shimon ben Lakish holds that as long as it wasn't mashbiach when it fell in, even if it's mashbiach afterwards, it remains mutter. Okay. Rabbi Yisrael Buna Amar Shmotza came. We don't have to figure out Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish about this Mishnah. We know that they actually addressed this Mishnah, and it's related to us. We have a Messiah that Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish argued, and it should say here Rabbi Yochanan said, not Al Daiti Rabbi, say Rabbi Yochanan said Machlokas, it's Saka Machlokas, and Rabbi Shimon Lakish said it's Divrei Kol. Everybody agrees. Okay, so they actually made that statement on that Mishnah directly. Okay, so be that all as it may, Lamaisa comes out that it's going to be Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, how we regard the wine which was introduced when it was hot and then later on you cooled off the dish. If you ate it when it's hot, about its mutter, everybody agrees. If you ate it when it was cold though, then later on, Reish Lakish holds, everybody holds its mutter because Pogam l'sofish biach is mutter. Rabbi Yochanan holds a Machlokas or main Rabbanan.
Means that it's still considered wine after it's been boiled. So it goes back to the yain levushal.
Yeah, yain nesach, which was then cooked, still remains yain nesach. It's if you cook the wine before it became yain nesach, that it doesn't become yain nesach.
Oh, okay. So here it's cooking.
If you bought gallon wine and you cooked it, you still couldn't drink it afterwards.
Right. So then, but here you're cooking it with the gallon wine.
Right.
So and you're eating it hot, so they're saying it's okay?
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is, this is not talking about Bisman Hazeh. Bisman Hazeh, you would do that and you would consider it a delicacy. Tastes have changed. Then we're talking about Zan when they consider that repulsive. Okay, so obviously, yeah. Nothing telling Shluv and Shvach is a relative thing. Okay? Halacha down. From now on, it's very much easier. I mean, not tonight. A guy is transporting wine with a Jew from place to place, and this is kosher wine. If it was in a chazaka that was being watched, meaning the guy did not assume that the Jew would distance himself from the wine, mutter, it's okay. If the Jew was stupid enough to tell the guy, he said, John, I'm going away for a few minutes, right? He told him, I'm going away for a while. So then, depends how long he goes. Kadesh Yistom, Yishtum, I'm not sure exactly how to read it, but I think it's Yishtom, which means not to drink it, but rather to open up a hole in the top, the Yistom, and then close it, the Yinkov, and seal it again. Now, this is talking about this is talking about making a hole in the top, not taking off the top, but even making a hole in the top. Clay barrels, right? They were not wooden barrels. That's important to know. We're not talking about drilling holes. We're talking about punching a hole in the clay, right? So, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Merkadesh Yiftach V'yikov V'tigab. No, it's the amount of time it takes to open a barrel's lid and then seal it again. That's the amount of time it is. Okay? Amar Shmuel said, "Mine." The one is going to discuss it in some greater detail. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, he was transporting wine with a Jew from place to place. And the story came from Rabbi Avo. And he forbade it. That's direct contradiction from our Mishnah. How come Rabbi Avo forbade it? Says Ma'armi, they said, they were transporting open morons. They were transporting open barrels. Right? So if it's open barrels, the guy doesn't need any time at all to just stick in his hand and, to see Hineni Muchanim Zuman and start being Menasech the wine, right? Says the Gemara, Amr Zikin said, you should know, low sof it's not just true if they're open and full barrels. Even if the barrels are very low, maybe even so low that the guy can't stick his hand down to the wine, right? Nevertheless, they're also the Torah, he's going to shake up the barrel, the naga biyoda, and touch with his hand, the wine as it's shaking up, the chazar, and then remove his hand and make it. Okay? At Savar, the other of Shin Gamliel Kula. Now you might think that which Rav Shin Gamliel says is a Kula. Meaning it takes more time for the guy to take off the entire lid and put it back than to knock a hole in the lid and then seal up the lid, right? So the Chachamim are machmir, would seem. Even a shorter amount of time, Asas wine or Shigam Leo require longer time. Says Marvelasi, it's not true. El Chumra, a Shigam Gamliel is more machmir. Why? The Sisumon the Rabbanon, the closing up of the rabbis is ma'at mikaf, is part of the lid. And Rabbi Sai, the way all the Mefarshim explained that means that if you it's harder to make a hole and then plug it up so it looks like it was not tampered with than it is to take off the lid and put it back. Because if you make a hole and then you just put clay there, so you can tell the difference between the different types of clay, the main part of the lid and this knocked-in hole. So actually, Rabbanan are the ones who are more mako. They say, we give you not just the amount of time which it takes to take off the lid and reseal it, but even the amount of time which it takes to make a hole and put in clay and somehow smear the clay in a way that it looks like it wasn't tampered with. Okay, that's a much bigger kula. Okay, there are other perushim, but that's the Mechamayim, and I think is correct. Rabbi Yami said, now we get off track. I don't know how we get off track because Mama Shak is blue. I guess because later on we're going to come back to wine, but we're going to talk for almost the rest of the evening about Samaritans. Okay, Rabbi Barpazi, nice. And now I should point this out. The Yerushalmi, probably because it's written earlier, is more ambivalent about the Samaritans than the Bavli is. But the Bavli says that they're going. In the Bavli Yerushalmi, you'll see they weren't, they waffled a bit on the topic. Okay.
The Samaritans still alive?
Of course, yeah. They were.
Maybe that's why.
They're still alive today. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe because they were living together.
They're living among them, right? Okay. They probably knew some good Samaritans, so that's why they had a problem. Okay. So let's go on further. If a kuti, right, a Samaritan, fries an egg for you, it's mutter. By Jews, by going themselves, it's a machloikas. When a guy fries an egg, if it's mutter or not, by a kuti, it's okay. Rabbi Shem Elazar said, "Tavshile kutim, harei mutarim." There's no isser bishulakum by a kuti. A kuti is a Samaritan, right? It's only an isser by a real guy. Okay, so you see that these people still hold that they were real Jews, right? That's only if it's the type of cooked dish where they don't put in normally wine and vinegar. But if on the other hand you know that they put wine and vinegar in, so then it's also even anoah because they're not so makbid on yain nesach. They're not so makbid. Because even though yain nesach is d'oraisa, they're still not makbid. The tiny like that, which in Berishona Yomrim, initially they said Yaino Shel Ugdor, which was a Samaritan village. Lama also why it's forbidden. They make Kfar Pagash because they used the wine for Kfar Pagash, which was a non-Jewish village altogether. It was Shel Burgata, which is a Samaritan village. It's also named Bira Surika because the Bira Surika's wine, which is non-Jewish wine altogether. And Shel in Kushis, which is a Samaritan village, is also named Kfar Sholem, which is a Goyish village. Then they turned around and they said, you know what, let's make it blanket principle. Pesucha, any place in any Samaritan town, not just the ones we mentioned. If you find an open barrel, b'chol makom asura, no matter what it's forbidden. Ususuma, if it's a closed barrel muteris, we assume it's the Samaritans themselves and it remains muter. Okay? Nekuva ususuma, if it was open, clearly open then closed, hareo kasuma, it's machlokas. The first be known is if it's closed and it's okay. It's a menachakula amar harez psucha. It's like it was open. Okay. Says the Gemara. Amar Yechina said, "Ana yochel kayim." I can ascertain which is if a barrel has been opened or not. In Habi love yakin. Now there's several different interpretations here. I'm going to learn like the Eretz Tzvi, which is a modern parish on contemporary parish on. Avodah Zarah, written within the past 10 years. He says, I can tell it, but in low, if it's not heavy, no, it's not hard to take off the seal, so that means it didn't really get sticky, right? They didn't have time yet to adhere strongly. So then I assume that it's been ispatachs, it's been opened up, and that would be a problem according to Rabbi Yitzchak ben Chalkula. Okay? Says the Gemara, a very famous story in the Bavli. It's a famous story. This is a story where they answered Samaritans. On the Yerushalmi, it's slightly different. When did they actually make the Samaritans answer? Okay? Like the following. Okay? This is the case. Rabbi Shimon Elazar Azal Chada the Shamrayan. Rabbi Shimon Elazar went to a certain city of Samaritans. So obviously they had hired a mechanech who was a frum Jew. Right? They hired a frum guy to be mechanech their kids. Okay, so he said to the soifer, to the teacher, I see chara kula stima. Bring me one closed barrel of wine. Now closed, of course, because we had the earlier example, you can't take open barrels from the kutim because maybe they weren't careful. But it's closed barrel, I guess it has a hechsher on it, a stamp on it, so then you can bring me that. Armaloi, so he said, Hamabua kabach. There's a spring here. Shati, drink that. In other words, take it from me. Stay away from the wine. Achachilavi, so he didn't bother him. Rabbi Shimon Elazar wanted wine. Amalei, so he said, again, Hamabua Kamach, Shasi. Drink from here's the well, drink from the well. Chamse Matrach Alave. So he saw it was going to bother him again. Amalei, so he said, now here's an amazing Gemara. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's fascinating. We have a term which we throw around a lot called Baal Nefesh. Baal Nefesh Yachmir. You have it all over the Pesachim, right? And it really never defined in the Bavli. But here, look at how the Yerushalmi says it. The Yerushalmi says, Inat morei dinafshach. If you're a master of your desires, Baal Nefesh means your desire. A Baal Nefesh is somebody who has restraint over their desires. Imori dinafshach. If you're the if you're the master of your desires, Homapur Kamoch, there's a fountain, there's a wellspring here, Shisei. Drink. V'im nafshach marsach. If your desires are your master, this line is not in the Bavli. It's a fascinating line. Im nafshach marsach v'samta sakin bloecha. You should put a knife in your throat. In Baal Nefesh Atzah. Now, this is a pasuk in Mishnah, but their Baal Nefesh means if you are possessed of a strong desire. So Baal Nefesh in the Tanakh means something different than Baal Nefesh in the Gemara. Baal Nefesh means you're master of your desire. In Tanakh it means if you're mastered, if you possess a strong desire, then you have to find some safeguard. Put it through. Obviously, it's figurative; doesn't mean commit suicide, but it means you have to find some safeguard to save you from transgressing the prohibitions which your desires are going to drive you to do. Anyway, what was the message that was imparted to him? He says quite explicit, you can't drink. If you can master yourself, well and good. If not, put a knife to your throat, do whatever it takes, because the kutim are already Avodah Zarah. And what was Avodah Zarah? Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Azal Lahada Nepule. You know what city Nepule is? It's not Naples, obviously. Think what city the Samaritans live in. Nablus. That's what it is. Okay? So I don't know. I guess it's obviously Nablus is Latin. I don't know what it comes from. But Nepule is the... maybe it's named after Naples. I don't know exactly what it is. Anyway, so that Nepule is Shem.
Things haven't changed. Okay.
Asu Kutai Lugabe. So the Kuti came out to greet him. Armalon, so he said, I've seen you. You don't bow down to the mountain. Now, for some reason, bowing down to the mountain would not do so bad. I guess to give homage to Mount Gerizim because the brachos were given there when Amisol went there, so he wouldn't have deemed that so bad. I know that you worship the idols that are buried underneath the mountain. The Chsiv, it says, when Yaakov came back from Lavan, he buried the idols they brought from Lavan's house under a tree by Shechem. And it says here, the Medrash says, the Moshe Mizan, and obviously the Yerushalmi is alluding to it, they found these idols. And they worshipped these idols that Yaakov brought back from Shechem. From Bavel, from Aram Naraim, whatever that was. Isn't that amazing?
So that's why it has the tumor.
Right. And Shechem Makam Mu'ah the Pranas, that's what Chazal say. Okay? That's why I think the Jews shouldn't be there, but that's a different matter. Okay.
Get rid of the tumor.
It's been there for a long time. It's very strongly entrenched.
Never too late.
Anyway, not for now. So it says he buried them under the Asherah in Shechem. Shama Kalni, so he heard them speaking. No, our secret's been discovered, right? They said, Amrin Nikrots, let's get up early tomorrow morning. And the Sadil Iv Kuvai and arrange the thorns. And arranging the thorns is a euphemism for killing him. B'yoda the Ilun Boy Miktalune. They knew they wanted to kill him. The Korak, so he woke up even earlier than they did, Benofakli, and he left. Okay? Now, so that's the time when they asked him, but there's still ambiguities. Rabbi Acha Azal Maum, he went to the town of Maum, which was a Samaritan town, Varal Chaliton, and he ate Chaliton, he ate their bagels, the stuff which is boiled. Now the truth is, the cholut even of a goy is mutter. So it's not so much a raya. I don't know exactly whether Mark's bringing it down. So, because Bishul Akum doesn't include cholut, dropping like cooking by boiling.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts, right? That's not considered to be bishul akum. Okay, so I mean, the like matzo balls is probably a better example. Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbi Yirmiyah used to, but Rabbi Yirmiyah ate their peas, and again, it's not clear whether he ate their peas because the bishul akum didn't apply to peas, or because he held they were not really goyim. So there's an ambiguity here, okay, an ambivalence. Rabbi Chizkiah Achal Kamtzin, he ate their grasshopper, their locusts, right? So again, the question is whether, what was going on. It seems that there was ambivalence whether to truly ask them. Rabbi Avo Aser Yeinon. Rabbi Avo forbade their wine. Even the wine which were matir before he forbade. Why? Rabbi Chiv, Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yami. Because he received the Messiah from Rabbi Chiv, Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Yami. So you only Bar HaMelech. They went up a hill called Har HaMelech, where I guess there were Samaritans. And there's a certain guy who was suspect of bringing goyish wine. Asun Amun Leikamoy, and they came and told him, and that they found this guy lugging wine around Samaritan country. Armelon said, "V'loy de ila." He said, meaning even though this is just a ruse, it's good enough to ask for the wine. So what he was looking, it's not that the Samaritans themselves we saw being worshipping Avodah Zarah. Ravo didn't, although Ravo probably, was probably going through Ravo's mind. I really think they're Avodah Zarah and want to ask for the wine, but it was still in that time of ambivalence. So they want to come out and do it outright. So when he hopped on this idea that once they saw a guy, carting around Yain Nesach in Samaritan country, he says that, this is my elah, this is my, my ruse, where I can make it pretend that I'm asking because of this, not because they're actually going. A pretext, good word. Okay. So, says the Gemara, some said, Chada Aruva Shuba. Some say the pretext was like this. One Erev Shabbos, in the whole, some people say it's a city, others say the Kiko law that says the whole district. He brings down some Latin word, Samarinus. I don't know exactly what he said, but anyway, so in the district of where the Samaritans live, there's no wine in Erev Shabbos. No wine. But Pukei Shuba, when Shabbos is over, Ishtachlas Malya. They found that the whole district was full of wine. All the liquor stores had been replenished. What happened? The wine obviously came on Shabbos, right? So obviously, Madaisan Aramaya, it's from what the Goyim brought, Vikivlune Kutaya Minhon. And the Samaritans accepted it. That was the pretext. Again, we didn't ask the Samaritan wine because they were Goyim outright, but rather because they were using non-Jewish wine. Some said the pretext was when Diocletian, whatever his name was, the king came to Eretz Yisrael. He said, all the nations who live in this area must libate their wine to our Avodah Zarah. He gave an exemption to the Jews. Then the Samaritans did libate their wine, and then we forbade their wine. And finally, there are those who say after all that, it should be a yoin as yoin, a dog. This is actually brought down the Bible. They actually have an Avodah Zarah that they themselves libate to. So all that we had, there's all these possible pretexts, and then finally we came around and said, you know what, they found Avodah Zarah by them. Okay? Kutayat the Kesari. Boy Rabbi Avo. So the Kutaya, the Samaritans lived at the Kesari. They asked Rabbi Avo, who was one of the people who forbade them wine on the pretext. They said, your forefathers used to buy wine from us. Why don't you buy from us? They said, your forefathers that weren't bad guys. You ruined it. Okay? Time and team, we learned over there, fascinating halacha, which is not in the Bible. Eretz Yisrael Tohera. Eretz Yisrael, we assume wherever you go is Torah. And any mikveh you find in Eretz Yisrael, we assume it's a kosher mikveh. You don't have to look for the hechsher. You assume it's a kosher mikveh. Okay? Eretz Kutim. by the Samaritans. Tahira, we also assume it's Tahor, even, around Shechem. Umikvos Seah, the mikvos there, and B'toros Seah, the place where the top lam down, the place where the non-Jew, the Kutim live, Ushvila, and the roads there, Tahirim. Why? Shvila Tahirim, why Shvila Tahirim? Why the place, their abodes and roads Tahor? Because the Kutim, that's one of the things they're makpid on. They're makpid on Tumatara. They might be goyim. We don't know, but they're makpid on Tumatara, right?
So they don't bury their dead along the roadside?
No, they go up in cemeteries. And they don't keep them in the houses either. Mikvos Satorim, the mikvos by the Samaritans, the Torah, what does it mean? He said, you believe that they're not drawn water. In other words, that it's rainwater. And the Yerushalmi says on the bottom, basically, he says, this Gemara seems to indicate that Shuvin is a Doraisa. So whole discussion, the place where the Mayim Shuvim, drawn waters, drawn in buckets, whether it's also Doraisa or Mutter Midoraisa. The Torah places many places in Shas. So from this Yerushalmi, it sounds like it's Doraisa, because the Samaritans only accepted Doraisas, not the Rabbanans. And obviously they accepted that a mikvah can't be Mayim Shuvim. Okay? So it's in that, so they want to say. So I mean in Shem Shuvim. But we don't trust them that there's a shiur. Why is that? It's fascinating. The Samaritan fashion, Ach Mayanu bar mikveh mayim. A mayan, a bar, a mikveh mayim, they're all the same. A spring, a pit, and a gathering of waters. Mayim matar koshu, just like a gathering of waters, we also hold, it doesn't have a shiur of a 40 sa'ah. At mikveh matar koshu, also the mikveh doesn't need a shiur. So in that, we can't believe them. We can believe that the water is rainwater. We can't believe that the water has the proper shiur. Okay? What about their chol? Now it's a very strange question again, because the chol even of a goy is mutter, right? So they asked him, what about the chol of a kuti? I guess maybe we'd even take it further. I don't know exactly what they're asking. Maybe they didn't know what the law of a chol of a goy is asking them both. Anyway, he said, he didn't answer directly. He said, Halavai could even answer their water. At this point, obviously, the Samaritans were quite detested. Okay? Rabbi Yaakov said, Kutoy the Kesarin, the Samaritans in Kesarin, Mutter la'avois you can loan the money at interest because they're not really Jews. Okay? Rabbi Yossi said, if that's the case, lo nachush chalasan, if they take off challah, let's assume the challah which they take off from dough is mamish nothing. Like a goy who takes off challah is mamish nothing. We see the rabbis hold that perhaps it is bal challah and the makbid not to be matamayit. Okay? So after all is said and done, it's a very ambivalent sugya, the sugya about Samaritans. We weave back and forth. Again, probably because there were different types of Samaritans probably at the time. Some were Avodah Zarah, and some were quasi-kosher Jews. So it's a much more ambivalent sugya than the sugya in the Bavli and Chulin, where the Bavli just basically brands them goyim outright. Okay? Halacha. Haminiach yain, the same principle we had before. Haminiach yain b'kolona b'svina, somebody left wine in a carriage or in a boat. V'achal kapmendari, he took a shortcut. Nichlas l'Medina, he came into the country. I guess they were it was like a way station by the road, and he went into the country to wash up. Rachatz mutter, as long as he didn't tell the goy that he's not going back soon. V'modia shumafli, if he told him he's going for a while, same thing we had before. Kadesh yishtom, the yistom yigov. The amount of time it takes to pierce a hole, plug it up, and cover it up. That becomes also Shugomer Kadesh Yiftach V'Yigov V'Tigov. The amount of time it takes to open up the lid and put it back and rub it back down again with pitch. Amar China said, Maisa B'Kon Echad Mishal Beis Rebbe. So Maisa with a carriage from the house of Rebbe, she flew to Yosef Arbas meal. It went. The Jew was more than 4 meal away from it, meaning 72 to 96 minutes away from it. So a long time. Right? And I guess the guy knew something that he wasn't going back for a while. Otherwise, the whole story doesn't make any sense. If he knew he might come back any moment, obviously the guy knew he wasn't going back for a while. Yet, as uvda kumi rabbanon, so Girsa Rebbe in front of Rebbe Yudanossi, but after they said it's okay. How come? So when they said, "Bahada Isratu the Tzidin Havos," that took place on the highway to Sidon. The Kulam Islavas and the Jews all along the way. In other words, the specific Jew who was supposed to be with the caravan, he distanced himself. But since the Jews constantly coming down the road, so therefore it remains mutter. And now the Gemara says an amazing thing. Amazing thing. On Rachina, it says, "Zinin duchame saigin kuvin." Sometimes you see a lot of thorn bushes by the road. And the guy is afraid that they might be people. In other words, it's amazing.
Motorcycle cop behind the billboard.
Yes, so the fake motorcycle cop though in this case. This is a dummy, right? He's afraid that thorn bush is really a human being. And therefore, he's afraid to be menasech. So as long as there's something shadowy which will cause amazing concept, you don't need an actual person, just have a scarecrow, whatever word works, like they have the outside Oratora, they have outside Hiltor, they have security patrol cars. So, so that would be sufficient. Okay? Somebody leaves a guy in his store, same idea, in a store which has wine in it. Even though it's going in, coming out, mutter, it's okay. If he tells him he's going away for a while, the amount of time it takes to knock a hole and plug it up again. The amount of time it takes to open the lid, the egov, and close it, the egov, and seal it down again. Ukrabi Meir. Now the truth is, on this Gemara, I'm really winging it because I didn't really prepare this properly. Ukrabi Meir. This is even going like Rabbi Meir. The Meir by Taros is Machmir. He says, you leave an Amoritz in your house. And then when you come back, you have to assume everything is Tomei. Right? That he touched everything in the house. Okay? So, nevertheless, here's okay. The Rameir Amar, Bekar Chabayis Tomei, nevertheless by Yain Nesach he's Mekel. Okay? Because, I guess because it's like Stam Yenom, and he was probably afraid he's going to get his hand caught in the barrel or something. So therefore here, we're not, even Rameir says it's okay. As long as guys Yosef and Nichlas. Okay? Says he said, if you have a chutz, a courtyard, which is divided by a small fence, it's not a real, it's not a mechitzo which bars vision. It's a small fence. So then, betaros tamei. In line with this dichotomy, if you leave a guy on one side of the fence, you're on the other side of the fence, the guy has some confidence of some sort, and he's going to start touching things, and it's tamei. Anything you leave him with there is tamei. Or the Yam Oretz. It could be a Jewish guy too. But behind Nesach Tor, again, by wine, he's more loath to take chances, and therefore your wine is okay as long as it's a low fence which can be seen over. Okay? Umeko b'yayin nesech is the only Rabbi Meir who's machmer taros to make b'yayin nesech. Says no, if Rabbanan machmer taros to make b'yayin nesech, the same thing. It's not just Rabbi Meir; it's Rabbanan are the same opinion. Okay, we will stop here for this evening. Yeah, I'm not going to sit up weekend.
Monday, Mr. Shem will be at Lincoln, right?
Unless you hear from me otherwise. But tomorrow night we'll be here. So I had.
So I'll take this tomorrow
okay.
and
Monday night we'll see him on Avodah Zarah.